few things. One day, I will ride that cleanly and not have to edit out all of my mistakes. 2, this is the second or third time that I have ridden this bike after throwing on the cranks, and I'm happy. All it needs now is wheels and to stay maintained enough that it's ready for race season. 3, daylight savings time. Thanks to 1 hour of lost sleep, we get 1 extra hour, 4 days of glorious extra daylight at the end of the day. Fair trade. 4, shirts and hats are selling way better than I thought they were going to, and I've never been to the post office so many times in my life. As a matter of fact, before I started selling things on my store, I had never gone to ship anything from the post office before. Oh. 5, yes, it is Tinker Tuesday, and yes, I am stalling as I try and figure out what it is exactly I want to work on today. But I think I have an idea. Now, depending on how long you've been a fan of the channel, or how long you've been subscribed, or at the very least how far you've actually gone into the history, the library of the videos of this channel, whether you're new or old, you should be very well acquainted with the fact that I used to work in a shop as a mechanic, salesperson, well, really the only person there. And one of the main fixtures as a mechanic tinkerer that shop had to offer was a plethora of, well, smaller versions of these on a back shelf that I really never showed in the shop ever at all, because it wasn't pretty and everything in the bins was just old, worn out garbage parts that are really, well, they're really nothing worth writing home about or making a video about in this case. But if you've ever worked in a bike shop like me, you absolutely know the importance of just old, kind of crappy spare parts that can be hanging out for just like kind of less broken parts or pieces that you can use to service something that is just sort of broken, and you can get that longer bit of time out of it. If that doesn't make sense to you, when the shop downtown, the one that I predominantly worked at, decided that it wasn't going to run anymore and they were only going to have the one out in this like shopping area, the idea was that we were going to get rid of any product that did not have a barcode, and we were just going to toss all of these old, kind of worn out misfit parts. And the option was there to grab anything I felt I needed for my own kind of like stuff here that I thought to myself, wow, these are useless, but in like 7 years, I'll probably do something with these garbage parts. Well, wouldn't you know it, we're here. This is it. This is an old, completely seized and worn out 10-speed Tiagra. This is what we're gonna try and salvage today. It's got a few problems, but namely it's this completely seized retention spring kind of... Either way, it's stuck like this. Now this is hardly its only problem. This bottom jockey wheel, it's absolutely seen better days. Not to mention this top one, this is still working diligently. So one thing is for sure, it will still move the chain up the cassette and back down. It just won't hold the chain at any sort of tension. And I want to fix that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try and fix all of its problems. By the end of this, I'm hoping it looks at least somewhat new, so that at some point in the future, probably in the next coming weeks, it can go on one of these bikes in this shed. The first thing I'm going to do, which I would not recommend really to anybody, is just kind of like hog wild, completely tear this all apart. this point, everything is pulled apart enough that the cleaning process can begin. There really isn't a whole lot of sexiness to this. The reason that derailleurs get so gross and seize is purely due to rust like this, which you probably can't see. But the rust builds up, all these smooth surfaces get all this grit on it, and well, eventually it starts to work towards making sure that nothing wants to move anymore at all. Like in here, this is all just kind of a rusty, gross mess. And the simplest way to get this all going again is to take it all apart, clean it, and throw it all back together. It's just a daunting task because, like, you know, the springs sort of don't make sense, and there's a lot of just like hitting and messing with and looking for ways to get things to loosen up. But like wheel building, the only way to really know if you're going to be able to do it is actually to just kind of jump into it and try it. So try and get to this point if you can without breaking anything. I almost guarantee that after you clean it in like a good degreaser, that you can probably stumble your way back through in the other direction. I'm going to take some dish soap. I'm going to scrub this thing as clean as I feel I can get it. And then I'm going to come re-grease it, put it back together.
Later.
So here we are back with a much cleaner workstation and a acceptable level of cleanliness that this derailleur will work like good enough to use. And that's what we're going for here, is good enough to kind of use. Notice how I added that extra word in there just to make things, you just put it back together, it's very easy. Grease. You know, it's not much. Like, this derailleur is kind of nothing. There's not going to be any broken hearts for like throwing out an old 10-speed Tiagra derailleur. You know, this at the time was probably the lowest end Shimano derailleur you could get. But it is wildly satisfying to take something that, when you did this before, would stay put, to going back to this, and as a matter of factly, when thrown on a bike, works just as it would new. Well, I'd say that's mission accomplished. This derailleur, rightfully so, back in service. And notably, back in service with a purpose. Because I have the attention span of a second grader, and I think I already want to do something to this thing again. Okay, I understand this episode was probably shorter than maybe you wanted it to be, but I really don't know how you could drag out taking a derailleur apart and putting it back together any longer than this. Anyway, there's still just a few hats left, so if you did want one, I would move quick, because then I'll need to get more. Shirts, there's still like a fair amount left, and we are ready and willing and able to pack and dispatch pretty close to rate when you order it. Feel free to support the channel on Patreon or in any of the Amazon links below, or of course through the Spin Dat store where the merch and maybe some other stuff will end up being, or hell, just keep watching videos. That's easily the best way that you can support the channel, is just by being here. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one.